All right, everyone, welcome. My name is Jen Duggan, and I'm a student recruitment officer here at the University of Toronto, Mississauga. I am absolutely thrilled to be joined by all of you for our U of T Mississauga program spotlights. Tonight, we are talking everything about computer science, mathematics, and statistics. So make sure that you've got your questions ready. If you don't, start planning those questions. You're going to be able to add your questions in the Q&A, and we will answer them or ask those questions to our panel a little bit later on. I am joined by some absolutely amazing people today. I do have just in the background people helping us out with chat support. That is Fada, Lewis, Tara, and Alicia. All of them are absolute superstars. So if you have any questions, whether it has anything to do with admissions, just don't put your student number in the Q&A and we'll be able to answer those questions. And then they're also going to feed some of the most popular questions to us so that we can ask the panel. In addition to that, I am joined by Axel, Rohit, Alana, as well as Daniel, one of our outstanding professors here at UTM, and they're going to introduce themselves to you in just a moment. So again, I just want to reiterate, it's everything computer math and stats tonight. Feel free, you can put your questions into the Q&A. We'll be able to answer those questions for you. If we don't get a chance to answer them, feel free, you can reach out to us in the Office of Admissions and Recruitment. We're always happy to answer your questions. I also want to say a really big shout out to Cindy, who's joining us today. And she's going to not be in the chat, but she's starting a brand new position with us in the Office of Recruitment and Admissions. So I can't think of a better session for her to get her feet wet. So welcome, Cindy, and welcome to all of you for joining us from wherever you are around the world. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to pass it over to our outstanding team of students and our professor so that they can introduce themselves. And then Daniel's going to provide you with a presentation. So Alana, why don't we start with you? Why don't you introduce yourself? Maybe all of you can tell us a little bit about who you are and the program that you're studying, the year that you're in, things of that nature. We'd love to get to know you.
Sure, I'll go ahead and start. Thanks, Jen. So hi, everyone. My name's Alana. I'm a fourth-year computer science major with double minors in philosophy and mathematics. It's my almost last semester here at UTM, so I'm really excited about that. Finally get to graduate and get out of here. What do I do? I'm a teaching assistant, so I've TA'd for 2 first-year computer science courses, which if you're interested in this program, you'll probably end up taking. And I'm currently studying artificial intelligence and HCI. So I guess that's a bit about me. Thanks, it's great to be here. I'll pass it over to my good friend, Axel.
Hi everyone, my name is Axel and I'm happy to be here. I'm a second-year computer science specialist and I'm also a teaching assistant for a first-year computer programming course, which most of you will probably take, so some of you may see me next year. Pass it on to Rohit.
Hey everyone, my name is Rohit. I'm a third-year student. I'm majoring in applied statistics and I'm with a double minor in mathematics and political science. I am in India right now and very much looking forward to spending my last year back in Toronto. Yep.
That's awesome. And Daniel, you're up.
I'm ready. Okay, folks, so I'll tell you a little bit about myself and then I'll do a brief presentation. And then, like Jen said, we'll jump into questions after that. So my job title here is Associate Professor Teaching Stream, which is a long title, but it basically just means that I focus on teaching. So we have some profs who focus more on the research side of things, and then we have other ones that focus on teaching. So I'm the second type. So all I care about is teaching, basically. I'm also the faculty advisor for computer science. So what that means is I work with students. I advise students, help them make decisions in their programs. I also do the post entry. So when students are applying to CS programs, we'll talk more about that shortly. And then just in case you think that profs don't do anything fun, some of us try. So for example, I'm currently working on some fiction. I don't know if it'll ever see the light of day because it might suck, but you know, we do try to do things that are not related to CS all the time. Okay, so I think the one thing to get out of the way first is that this is kind of non-traditional department in the sense that it's composed of 3 disciplines. So at other universities, you might be used to 1 department per discipline, but here we have a single department, which is called MCS, and it's composed of 3 disciplines. And those are computer science, which is what I do, math, and stats. So if you're taking any one of these 3, then you're going to be part of the MCS department here. Okay, so within those disciplines, we offer different types of programs. So in general, we have 3 types of programs, although if you want more specific information, you should check the individual discipline websites. But at a high level, we have minors, which are the smallest number of credits, majors, which are a few more credits, and specialists, which are the most credits. The way we count things here is that each 1 semester course is 0.5 credits. So for example, if you need like 4 credits for a minor, then that means you're going to take 8 one-semester courses. Okay. Something else that's not the case for all universities. It certainly wasn't the case for me when I was a student. But the way it works for getting into our programs is you don't choose your program directly out of high school. You come here, you have a good time for 1 year, and then you choose your program at the end of your first year. At that point, hopefully you've completed at least 4.0 credits and you've satisfied the requirements for the program. And the requirements for the programs are set annually. We make you aware of those requirements late in the January to April semester. So in a couple of weeks, current students would be made aware of their requirements to get into the programs after their first year. Okay. And then you keep going with your bachelor's degree. We require a total of 20 credits. So you'll have 4 or 5 credits at the beginning when you get into your program, and then you'll complete the remaining, say, like 15 credits or so on your way to completing your bachelor's degree. So you're going to choose your program, like I said, after your first year, and you have a choice of which combination of programs you want to pursue. So I have a few options listed here. So one option is you do only a specialist. So for example, you do a specialist in computer science or specialist in math or stats. Another option is you do 2 majors. So popular ones are things like math plus stats, or CS plus math, or CS plus stats, or like CS plus CCIT, CS plus psychology, things like this. You could go across departments too, of course. And the third option I have here is 1 major and 2 minors. So you could do something like a math major and maybe a CS minor along with a psychology minor or something. Okay. So some students think that specialist is better than major, and I'm here to tell you it's not. So it just depends on what your goals are. Employers don't care. Employers don't even know what these terms mean. I mean, they're specific to U of T, right? So employers just want someone good. Okay, they don't care if you have a specialist, a major, like a super whatever degree. Okay, as long as you know your stuff, you're good to go. So if you are interested in multiple disciplines, then maybe a major is what you want. If you want to focus exclusively on like CS or math or stats, then maybe specialist is what you want. But in my opinion, one of them is not better than the others. It just depends on what you want to do. Okay, so we have some first-year courses that you generally take if you're in computer science, math, or stats. So there's Math 102, which is our mathematical proofs course. So it teaches you all about communicating using proofs. So writing your own proofs, verifying or validating, or contradicting other proof attempts to see if they're correct or not. Then we have our introductory calculus courses, and there are various course codes for this. Depending on exactly which program you're interested in taking, there are different levels of the calculus course, more or less rigorous courses. And then we have our intro to programming course, which is CSE 108. And then we have our intro to CS course, which is CSE 148. And only the CS students are required to take 148, whereas the stats and CS students are required to take CSE 108. At the bottom, we have the final one, which is our linear algebra course, which all 3 disciplines require. And again, there are a couple of different course codes listed there because you have to make the choice that makes most sense for what your goals are. So for example, if you don't intend on doing much more math, you may take Math 223. If you're interested in doing a specialist in math, you might take the more rigorous version, which is Math 240. So I imagine there are many questions about these first-year courses, and it's pretty overwhelming at first. So for example, which calculus course do you even take? I mean, there are so many of them. Which one do you take? How do you prepare for university calculus courses? Like, are you ready out of high school? Do you need to do some preliminary work? Those kinds of questions. What's Math 102 all about, right? So what is proof? What does it mean to prove things? And which linear algebra course should you take, like Math 223? And if you should take it, then when should you take it? And so on and so forth. There are very many questions that you may have about all these first-year math courses. So I've got a link here. And if you go to this link, it's our first-year advice/information page. And definitely check this out. All the questions I mentioned above and more are answered there. But of course, if you have additional questions, feel free to reach out to their respective faculty advisors. You can look those up on the department website as well, and shoot them an email, and they'd be happy to help you make your decisions as you start a program here at UTM. So the last thing I want to do with you is just talk about some opportunities that are unique to UTM. I mean, every university in the universe has calculus courses and CS courses and all that. So I just want to sort of tell you what I think is unique and special to UTM that you may not find at other universities. And I can say when I was a student, I didn't really have these kinds of opportunities. Like I had to wait till grad school to do some of these things. For example, independent research with a professor. So we have various ways that this can happen. So the biggest is this thing called Research Opportunity Program, or ROP for short. That's the way you'll see it written a lot. But what this involves is you get course credit for working with a professor on an area of research that they specify. So generally every February, they post their opportunities to a website. It's called the ROP app. And then students go in and apply, and it's competitive. So the professors look through all the applicants and choose the ones that they think are most suitable for that position. And then over the next like 4 months or 8 months or whatever, you work with that professor on research. I think maybe the coolest part about it is you, not always, but sometimes, certainly sometimes, students end up with a peer-reviewed paper under their belts, which is super cool. And I didn't have one until I was like second year of my master's or something. So it's a very early way to get exposure to research. If you're interested in maybe going to grad school or doing research on your own later on, I think these kinds of opportunities are amazing. So also, I think unique to UTM here is we have something called facilitated study groups, another acronym, FSG. Your head's going to be full of these acronyms if you come here. Okay, they're going to be second nature to you. But for now, a facilitated study group is many of our first and second year courses are quite large, and it's difficult sometimes to get one-on-one interaction with students and TAs and professors. But you can certainly come to office hours and go to labs and things like that. But this is just another way for you to interact with peers who are slightly older than you are, slightly ahead of you in your program. So typically, the leaders of these FSGs will be in maybe second or third year, and you'll be in first year. And they'll have maybe 20 or 30 or something students in the group. And the leader, the FSG leader, will focus on skills that can help you perform better in that course and in all your courses in general. And so the goal really isn't so much content, but it's study strategies and skills and learning approaches and things like that. So, I mean, we've got the content covered, elsewhere in the course, and they do cover content in these things too. They have review questions and things like that, but it's more focused on how to think about the course material like an expert would think about it. There's also a student society here, which is called MCSS. It's Math and Computational Sciences Society. And definitely keep track of what they're up to, right? Join their Facebook group or whatever the heck these people are using these days. I can't keep up. It's led by MCS students. They're typically upper years, like third and fourth year students, stuff like that. They're elected to positions in the student society. And they run some very interesting events every year. And sometimes you'll see the profs hanging out at these events too. So for example, they have been known to run hackathons, like a weekend-long hackathon with prizes. Sometimes the prizes are kind of interesting, like cryptocurrency or like books that might be useful to them, or I think gift cards and things like that. They also run game nights. This is, hopefully COVID goes away soon and we can get back to the in-person game nights that we used to have. And they also have opportunities for example, improving your resume when you're about to apply for jobs and things like that. So certainly, keep track of what they're up to. They offer a lot of unique opportunities every year, and feel free to participate. I have a lot of fun going to these things too, and a lot of students do as well. They do fundraisers. They pied me in the face once to raise money. So, all kinds of interesting things are happening. So definitely don't miss that. So in terms of other opportunities, there's a math specific one here, which is called the Rochester Mathematics Olympiad. And generally every year we have some of our students participating in this Olympiad. It's competitive. If you're keen on competing in math, I think that would be a good thing for you to check out. We also have some professors who typically, along with the research opportunity program, help their students go to conferences. So they'll provide funding to attend conferences, which I think is a great way to immerse yourself in the research that's happening in your field of interest. And you might think it's a little early for me to be telling you this, but applying to be an FSG leader or a TA is a super cool opportunity that we offer. And it's really not too early to think about this, because many of our FSG leaders and TAs are undergrads, and some of them are even second-year students. Like Axel was talking to you a little bit at the beginning of our session today, and Axel's a TA and a second-year student as well. So we definitely have some second years, more third years and fourth years, of course, but we like to get our students involved in being TAs very early. Our department runs almost exclusively in computer science anyway, on undergrad TAs, and there are many undergrad TAs in math and stats as well, and it works out really well. I think maybe some students think, oh, it would be nicer if there were like some more PhD people around to be my TAs, but trust me, like I've been at UTM for maybe 10 years, and the undergrad TAs are the best. Okay, like they're so involved and invested. Not to say that some grad students couldn't be; they can be as well, but if they've got their own research to do, they have to like solve the world's problems and stuff like that. And the undergrad TAs we have are part of our department, and they're involved day to day in the department, and they're also our TAs. Okay. So since I'm the CS faculty advisor, I'm allowed to spend at least one slide talking only about my CS stuff. So I'm going to do that right now. So perhaps one of the most exciting things we have going in our CS department at UTM is the information security specialist. So it's one of our two specialists that we have right now. We also have a computer science specialist, but the information security one is, I think, pretty unique to UTM. And this one, you take courses about hacking, or wait, maybe about preventing hacking. Yeah, let's put it that way. And so if you're interested in things like web security, information security, computer security, these kinds of things, definitely check this program out. We have a lot to offer in this program. It's been around for a few years, and it attracts quite a few students every year. Secondly, and much newer, is our new robotics courses. So we don't have a CS robotics major or specialist yet, but looks like we're going to at some point. I don't know when, but we're hiring many robotics professors. We have more and more robotics courses being offered every year. If you were part of a robotics club in high school, you might kind of have a sense of what we do in these robotics courses. It also lines up pretty well with machine learning. So we have courses that talk about how to use machine learning for robots in robotics contexts. We have a lot of hiring happening. We've been hiring robotics professors every year for the past like 3 or 4 years. We have lots of new robotics courses being added every year. And word on the street is that we even have a new robotics lab coming. So whenever COVID's done, we have a new building that's being constructed, and it's going to have robotics labs and computers and robots all over the place. Just to support all of the exciting research and courses that are happening in this new robotics focus that we have. So I'll stop there. I'll hand it back over to Jen to get us started with the next phase of our presentation.
Thank you so much, Daniel, for that exceptional presentation. We all learned a lot. Now we're going to move on to our students panel. So once again, my name is Jen Duggan. I am a student recruitment officer here at the University of Toronto, Mississauga, and I'm thrilled to be joined by Rohit, Axel, and Alana, who are going to be providing you with answers to some of the questions that we've put together, but also that you've been asking. So without further ado, I think the best thing to do is to have the three of you introduce yourselves.
Sure, I'll go ahead and start. Nice to meet everyone. My name's Alana. I'm a fourth-year computer science major with a double minor in mathematics and philosophy, and I'm a domestic student here.
Hi, everyone. My name is Axel, and I'm a second-year computer science specialist student. I'm also a domestic student from Burlington, and I'm also a TA for a first-year course, computer programming.
Hi, my name is Rohit. I'm just finishing my third year. I'm an international student from Bangalore, India, and I'm majoring in applied statistics and double minoring in mathematics and political science.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. So this first question is actually going to go out to Axel and Rohit. What was your first year like, and what advice do you have? What advice would you give to students with respect to the student transition into post-secondary?
Hi, so I came to the university in the fall of 2019. Back then, things were still in person, so I had my first year mostly in person. When I came to the university, I didn't know many people really. I didn't know anyone in my program, so I was kind of on my own, at least for that. But I went to my classes. I had a few maths, computer science, and other social sciences and humanity credits. And yes, I went to all my lectures. I tried to go to some clubs like the UTM Mathematical and Computational Society, met some people in lectures, in tutorials in that club. So it was good. It was a good transition. I would say it's very important to get out there, try to meet people, talk to people in your lecture. You're going to be with these people for the next 4 years or so. So I would say it's very good to form a study group as well. Get to know people, get to know your profs. I think that's a good advice I can give you.
Yeah, my first year was pretty fun as well. It's a lot of new experiences, especially for me coming from India. But yeah, it was pretty fun. I stayed on residence, so I made friends in residence. I made friends in classes, and it's just a lot of new opportunities and a lot of new experiences. So definitely have fun, but yeah, I'd say also keep on top of schoolwork, because for some students it might seem a bit easy first year, but for some other students it could be slightly challenging, and it's just wise to manage your time well.
And that's great advice. Now, Alana, this second question is for you. We know that computer science is a competitive program. So what advice do you have for someone going into their first year so that they can be successful in their upper years?
It's a really good question. I think that going into your first and second year, you're essentially sort of cultivating the foundations for what you're going to be learning on, or what you're going to be building on in your upper years. I hate to say it, but it's because it sounds a bit daunting to say it like this, but I think first and second year is really where you have to sort of just buckle down and focus on the schoolwork and focus on your studies. Like Axel and Rohit mentioned, it's a little bit scary to kind of start off university if you don't know anybody. So there's sort of social aspect to it. But I think the best way to approach sort of just, trying to merge learning with the social part of university is to find people that you're able to work with and find people that you can study effectively with. There's a huge difference. And really just sort of build yourself from the beginning, and don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to do the extra work. Don't be afraid to pull on a nighter if you have to. I wouldn't recommend it, but sometimes it's necessary. And like I said, the reason I say that is because I think that doing really well in your upper years means really sort of utilizing what you learned in your first year and your second year. Our classes in computer science especially sort of build on top of each other. So it's really important to just sort of have those foundational concepts and have those foundational ideas to start off, and then you'll kind of see success later on. I think that, again, throughout all your years of university, you do have to sort of, you can't just sit back. You do have to be active and in your learning and active in your lectures and in your classes. But starting off strong, I think, is a really good, and starting off confident in what you're learning is a really good sort of method to ensure that you're at least you're passing your courses in upper year. Let's put it that way. That's sort of the beginning of it.
That's great. Thank you so much. Now, we all know that when we applied to the University of Toronto, we actually applied into an admissions category. And then at the end of first year, we were able to select our program of study, or what we call our subject post. Now, can the three of you actually just go through how you kind of came upon your subject post, how you came to decide which major, which minor, which specialist degree you wanted to pursue?
Yes, so for me, it was I actually knew before coming into university what I wanted to do. I chose computer science for three main reasons. One was that in high school, I enjoyed specifically the computer science courses and the math courses as well. Those are my two favorite subjects in school, and I really enjoyed, the problem-solving aspect of it. And I wasn't a big fan of other courses as much, like memorizing or writing. So I really enjoyed problem solving. So math and computer science and stats too, those were my options going into university. Second, my family actually came from a tech background. So they were actually over the years pushing me to get into this, do some, coding on the side. So I really enjoyed it. And also when I thought about it, computer science is a really good major to go for in 2021, with the growing technology, and we're already going all online now, but you can imagine in 10 years from now what things are going to be like. So I already knew pretty much what I wanted to do. I wanted to do the computer science specialist, and I'm actually still considering doing the math minor, because if you do the computer science specialist, you only need two more math courses and you can get the math minor. So I would say you can't really go wrong with it. I think it's a great addition. And if you like computer science, chances are you'll enjoy math as well.
Yeah. For me, when I came into university, I originally planned to major in computer science, but I had a really strong foundation in math from high school. And after taking a few stats courses in my first year, I found that aligned to my interests a bit better. So I made the choice to do a stats major instead, and a math minor along with it. And as an elective, I took a political science course in my first year as well. And I really found that interesting as well. I liked the professor a lot. So I just thought I'd take that as a minor as well.
Yeah, so I'm like Axel. I really enjoyed problem solving in high school. I figured I wanted to go into something that sort of continues that, and I didn't feel like going to medical school and becoming a doctor. So I ended up sticking with my gut and going into computer science. I didn't really have a huge background from high school. My high school was like brand new when I started, so there weren't many computer science courses. But my dad actually is a computer scientist as well, so I sort of did my own like background research, I guess, before I decided where to apply and what to apply to. I was originally in the specialist in my first year. That was the post that I got into. And at a certain point, I kind of realized, I think it was in towards the end of my second year, I kind of realized that I didn't really want to take the computer science courses that were required for specialist. And so one of the profs at UTM actually said, well, why don't you go into the major? Because then you can, get the same degree. You can take the same courses that you want to, and you can have some freedom in what you pick. And I was like, you know what, that's brilliant. That's a brilliant idea. And so I did it. And now it was like the best decision of my life, because I can take all these cool courses that I wouldn't have had time to in my schedule to take before. So that was sort of my reasoning into my major. And then like Axel said, the math minor was sort of a logical add-on. And for my philosophy minor, I actually took a philosophy course in my second year to satisfy we have to have certain courses in certain fields. So in humanities, I took a philosophy course to satisfy that requirement. And I actually really enjoyed it. So I was like, you know what, let's add on a second minor. Why not? We got nothing to lose. So that was my sort of reasoning for it, I guess.
I love it. That's a fantastic story. That's kind of how I ended up with my minor as well. You just take a course and decide that it was fantastic and continue on with it. Now, this is a question for Axel and Alana. We know that it can be kind of challenging to balance coursework and student life. So I'm wondering if you have any tips specifically with time management that you can share with our students.
Yeah, so there's a lot of work to manage. So it's really, I think the best thing you can do is, try to stay organized, have a schedule, and make sure you're always on track of everything. School shouldn't be, you do work all day, you wake up and then you just do schoolwork nonstop all day. You should be managing your time, right? You should be setting a schedule aside. No, you're going to realize how much time things take you, and you'll get a good sense of how much work you have to put in. So I would say it's a really good idea to have a schedule, stay organized, write down everything on a calendar, a notepad, and I definitely think you'll be able to manage some social time too. It'll be mostly work. I will let you know now, but of course you can still manage some school time as long as you stay consistent with your work and keep on track of everything. I think you should be okay.
Yeah, I think that's really good. He makes a really good point, Axel. I think sort of the main sort of things that I wish somebody had told me to do would be use your calendar. So I have a huge calendar on my phone that I color coordinate everything depending on the class, depending on whether it's I'm a TA, so whether it's TA business or like club business, whatever. I think the other thing I would say is it's important to kind of do a little bit every day. And I made this mistake in my sort of first and second year where I thought, oh, I can just spend 8 hours like grinding through these lectures that I didn't really understand. And it's like, no, you need to sort of space it out so that you're continuous in your learning throughout the whole semester. Otherwise, you kind of get to the end and everything's just hitting you at once, and it's just the worst feeling. So I would recommend sort of managing in little bits, or do a little bit here, do a little bit there. Work on some coursework maybe every other day if you can, something like that. And that way you're not stressing about what you need to know by the end of the semester, and you can still sort of find time to have some sort of social interaction, as Axel mentioned.
I think those are great pieces of advice. Thank you so much. Alana, the next two questions are actually for you as well. So the first question is actually not just a question, it's multiple questions that have come through the chat. And it's our guests wondering what sort of professional opportunities exist for students in the programs that you're in. So can you speak a little bit about those opportunities?
Yeah, I can. So I think Axel mentioned it earlier. Computer science is sort of a really great field to be in, especially nowadays. There's a lot of really great opportunities in terms of areas like software development. A lot of companies are hiring more and more software developers. There's opportunities for, within the university, there's opportunities for teaching assistants like me and Axel. You can apply to be sort of a helper in your course, and you can get paid for it. And it's an awesome job that I totally recommend. There's consulting that you can go into. There's sort of aspects of computer science that people tend to forget about. So there's if you're interested in law, for example, I have a friend who's a computer science major who's now in law school, who's looking at policies relating to artificial intelligence. Like there's so many different ways to apply the computer science degree in so many different fields that if I had to sit here and list out every single job you could get, we'd be here like for an infinite amount of time. Like there's jobs popping up that I've never even heard of at this point. So I think in terms of just professional development and opportunities, as long as you keep your options open and you sort of identify what about the field you enjoy, you're going to find some sort of opportunity out there, whether it's through the UTM, through the job boards that we have online, or whether it's just through your LinkedIn and through your networking as a student. You'll definitely find something. There's sort of there's no concern for me. I'm kind of like, you know what, I'll find something. There's something out there for me.
There absolutely is. Thank you for that. And I know that you've actually taken at least one course on another campus. Can you share that experience with us as well?
Yeah, I've taken quite a few courses at the other campuses actually. So I've taken, actually this past semester, I took 3 courses at the St. George campus just because I figured we're online. Let me take advantage of the fact that I don't have to commute down there nowadays. And the experience honestly is very similar. The only difference is that I'm meeting people that I wouldn't necessarily know, and I'm going into a situation where I don't actually know anybody. Whereas at UTM, I tend to, if I'm in your course, I sort of know the people around me because we've all been there since first year. I think overall as an experience, it's great. In person is definitely a little bit more challenging than online, just because you do have to sort of, you're expected to be there in person. So the commute at the time when I was doing an in-person course at St. George in second year was a bit rough, but now that we're online, I would definitely try and take advantage of what's offered at these different campuses. There's some courses that we have at UTM that aren't at St. George, and vice versa. So it kind of helps to diversify your course load a little bit if you've got some, it kind of adds some extra options for you, which is kind of nice. So overall, it's a great experience. I totally recommend it.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And speaking about courses, we want to answer some of the questions that are coming through the chat. And one of those questions has to do with the math courses and how hard those math courses are compared to high school math courses. So Axel and Rohit, could both of you give some insight into how you're finding the math courses?
Sure. So in my first year, I took 4 math courses, and most likely you guys will also be taking 4 courses too. So these include 2 calculus courses, linear algebra, and mathematical proofs. So I took Math 135 and Math 136 as opposed to Math 137 or the other course, Math 157. So these are the basic calculus course. So basically, I would say Math 135 and 136 calculus, differential calculus, and integral calculus. If you've enjoyed grade 12 calculus, I think you'll also enjoy these 2 courses. It's a pretty smooth transition, so it's not a huge jump in terms of those courses. If you've enjoyed those high school courses, I think you'll also enjoy these new courses. Linear algebra, it's similar to the vectors part of high school. So if you like that, then I think linear algebra will be your class. Mathematical proofs is the one that's the biggest jump, I would say, because it's a course that most people have never even seen some of these things before. So calculus and linear algebra, you already have a good foundation of it. You already have the basics of what it is from high school. Mathematical proofs, it's a different way of thinking, really. And yeah, it's definitely harder than the other 3 courses, at least in my opinion, but I would say most other students would also agree with me. But if you get the help, again, talk to your friends, talk to your profs, put in the work. If you do all this, I think you will be okay.
Yeah, I think Axel really summed it up pretty well there. So I did the Indian curriculum in high school, and I'd say the calculus and linear algebra was pretty similar to high school math. And the other math courses, such as the proofs and upper year math courses, they are tough in their own regard, but they're manageable. It's not too tough. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. We're also getting a lot of questions about what languages you code in. So for the 3 of you, do you want to share, obviously, what languages you're coding in, and how it's relevant to the program that you're studying?
Yes. So in first year, we did all Python. So in CSE 108 and CSE 148, Introduction to Programming and Introduction to Computer Science, we just did Python, which is a high-level language. It's probably the easiest one to learn and the most friendly one you'll be coding in. In second year, so in software design, we did some Java, and we also did the language C in software tools and systems programming. We also did assembly. This is a very low level language where you really get close to the computer architecture. Python is probably my personal favorite, and in terms of usefulness, I think assembly it's good to know, but it doesn't have it's not too popular nowadays. Those are the 4 main ones that I've done. I've also done the language R, which is for my stats course in first year. I took stats 107. So yeah, these are the 5, I would say, languages that I focused on.
In the few stats courses, in the few computer science courses that I've taken, I did Python and I did assembly language, which is for processors, like Axel mentioned. And mainly in stats, we just do R, the language R for analysis. Yeah.
Yeah, I've kind of gone the same path as Axel. Python's a big one. We've done Java, C, I've done R as well. I've done some work with interpreters and compilers. So I've done Haskell and Bracket, which are two sort of very unknown languages similar to Lisp, if any of you guys know what that's like, just to do some interpreting stuff. You know, I've done C, which is like my least favorite language. Assembly is also my least favorite language as well. Python is used a lot in upper year courses. I know that part of the question was about coursework as well. And so in my upper years, I've used Python quite a bit just because, you know, it's sort of the go-to language for a lot of courses. I'm studying artificial intelligence, so we, you know, do all of our coding in Python essentially. So I'm considered a Pythonista, I guess, but Python's definitely, if we're gonna, you know, rank favorites, Python's up there. Assembly and C, not so much, but I'll leave that for the debate in the chat, I guess.
That's great. Thank you so much. Now, Alana, we know that computer science can be a challenging program. It is a challenging program. It's a competitive program to get in. It really keeps everyone on their toes. But we do have students that are currently in high school that perhaps are feeling a little bit of anxiety about, you know, entering into the computer science program and its difficulty. Do you want to maybe share some of your tips and techniques and your experiences that have helped you throughout the program to get to where you are today?
Yeah. Oh boy. So I'll say what I usually say. As a TA when people ask me this question. You know, I have first years come up to me and they're sort of like, "What do I do to succeed in computer science?" And I always say, just do your best, ask questions if you don't understand, and be willing to sort of work on your own a little bit to kind of catch up if you feel like you're missing something, if you feel like you don't fully understand something. What I wish somebody had told me in first year was that you'd have to do a little bit every day. And the reason for it is because you're essentially learning to, you know, read and write and communicate in a new sort of problem space, in a new sort of language, or multiple languages, if that's the case. And that can be really challenging for a lot of people, especially if you don't come from a strong computer science background like myself. I think that the main, you know, I'd say like the main thing that you can do is just to be open and willing to learn a lot of new things very quickly. It can seem overwhelming at first because, especially in first year, people will come in and your peers will be eager to show what they know. And if you don't have as much of a background, it can be sort of daunting to be in a room of people who are just popping off at the seams about things that you've never even heard of. I've definitely had that experience, but once you sort of just, you know, once you sort of like, you know what you're doing in your courses, stay confident and stay willing to learn, I think you'll be fine, honestly. My one fear in first year was that I wouldn't be able to keep up with my peers. And now, like, well, I've made posts, like I'm in fourth year, like I made it. So clearly I was doing something right, you know? Yeah, I would say just stay open and stay willing to learn a lot of new things. You know, stay interested, like find things that inspire you to keep yourself going, and I think you'll be fine.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for that. I actually want to jump over to Axel for a second, because we also have students asking questions about whether or not professors are available outside of class hours. And our profs can be really great supports in helping us navigate that first year all the way through to fourth year. Can you talk a little bit about office hours and whether professors are available?
Yeah, so I've, since the start of university, I've always been the type of person to go to office hours and try to seek some extra help. So I can talk about that a little bit. So other than lectures, I found myself needing a lot of outside guidance, I would say. So office hours were really, really helpful, I would say. The professors will have weekly schedules of when they're available to meet with the students, and you can talk to them during that time. Sometimes if those times aren't the most convenient, maybe you'll have conflicts with your other courses. So in my first year back when things were used to be in person, I would usually just go straight to their office at whatever time. If they happen to be there, great. I would maybe knock on their door, ask, hey, you have a few minutes to just chat about a question? I think it would be really helpful to. So a lot of times, yeah, there were a lot of times they're available. A lot of times they weren't actually there in the office. Now that school is in person, it's not as easy to do that anymore. So I can't just get a prof and say, hey, can we talk about this like right at this moment? So we actually have Piazza, which is a discussion board where you can ask them questions. You can post to your TAs, to your professors, and they'll answer whenever they can. It's basically just like an email. You can message them and get an answer. What is something else I also like to do? Not all professors do this, but a lot of them do. You can email them and set up a time to meet with them. You can email them, be like, ask them, hey, would you be available to talk this Tuesday, this Wednesday? Give them your schedule, when are you available to talk? And oftentimes I had a lot of professors who would meet with me for 30 minutes, even an hour, go over a concept, ask them to re-explain a proof for me. Maybe I didn't understand a lecture. So I think professors have been great in terms of that. Like especially now online, I've found all the help I needed, and I'm very happy with what they did for me.
That's excellent. I can tell you, all of the professors that I had loved it when students actually went to ask them questions or set up appointments so that you could have those one-on-one opportunities to get clarification. Definitely reach out to your profs. I think that's one of the best pieces of advice that we have. And Axel, you actually mentioned, how things have changed online. So I'm going to throw this over to Rohit, because Rohit, I would love to know what your experience has been learning online, because we know that the COVID pandemic has meant that we aren't in person in classes currently, and so everything kind of moved to virtual learning. So can you share a little bit about what your experience has been, and what are the class sizes like in a virtual setting? Are you still getting that opportunity to have one-on-one conversations with your professors and have your questions answered? I'd love to hear a little bit more from you about that.
Yeah, so the transition at first was difficult to say, and I shifted back to India, so the time difference was also something I had to manage. So for me, I found myself having to go over the class material a bit more than I had to in person. So I'd say once you find a routine that works for you, just stick to it and keep up to that, and it should be good. In terms of the classes per se, it might seem intimidating with 70 or 100 people in a Zoom call, and you might feel a bit anxious to ask questions or anything. But I'd say for my class, at least, the engagement doesn't seem that high. And often it's easier to approach professors in the online environment because you don't have to necessarily show your face all the time. But yeah, class sizes are in your first year, they're approximately 100 to 200. And I think the max class size at UTM is 500 for intro courses. And then as you go up into your upper years, the class size naturally decreases.
Which is great. Thank you so much for that. Okay. This question now goes out to all three of you. And it's really, what's your plan after graduation? What are your goals? Where do you want to see yourself in the next little while?
Oh, sorry. I guess I'll start off just because I'm the oldest. I'm the old lady here. So this is what we call the forbidden question when you're in fourth year, because people get really stressed out about graduating and finishing off and all that. For me personally, I plan to take at least a semester to just sort of recuperate and sort of figure out what I want to do next. I've been doing school nonstop since like high school, so I definitely would like a little bit of a break. I'm definitely planning on continuing to be a teaching assistant in that semester, which is really nice. So if any of you guys decide to come to UTM, you might have me as your TA and we'll have a really great time together. I am planning on applying to grad school at some point in the next year or so, which is, where, Dan, if you're watching this, hi, I'm gonna have to send you a bunch of emails to help me out with that. But I'm sort of a lifelong learner, as they say. I definitely like to keep learning. So whatever, graduate program I decide on or whatever industry opportunity I take, it has to be one for me that's sort of continuous, where I'm not just doing one task, but learning how to do multiple tasks, or learning how to, implement multiple projects, or learning how to be in different problem spaces, that sort of thing. I like a good challenge. So something that challenges me, I think, would be, doing some sort of upper year graduate study or research and still learning more about computer science. I think that's where I want to be in the future. I say that, but I'm also, a very tired fourth year, so that could change. Who knows?
All right.
So I'm still finishing my second year, so I am probably out of the three of us the furthest behind. I'm still figuring things out, but I do have some general ideas of where I want to go and what I want to go into. So one path that I'm considering is going into grad school. There in computer science is so broad. There's so many fields you can specialize in. Just name a few: software engineering, data science, web development. There are so many areas you can go into. So as I'm going into my third year, this is where I hope to really get an idea of which field I want to get into, because you have more freedom in your upper years than in your let's say first year and second year. So I'm definitely considering doing a master's degree, something with grad school. And afterwards, I'm hoping to go in the industry and work a job in computer science. I think that's been my goal for quite a long time now.
For me, the plan a couple of years ago was to do undergraduate and then straight go to grad school and then work. Right now, the plan is take a few years off to work and then maybe pursue masters. And we'll see what the plan is once I finish my fourth year.
I think it sounds like a great plan, Rohit. Thank you so much for that. All right, we're coming down to the end of our presentation here. So I have one final question to ask each of you. And if you could each share what your greatest achievement or your most memorable moment so far has been within computer science or within your programs here at UTM, what would that be?
So for me, I would say because we have post and we need specific marks to get into our programs, I think that was getting the required marks and seeing the marks on my transcript was probably, I thought, my biggest achievement, because I put in a lot of work into those courses, and I know it was very competitive, but the hard work paid off. And seeing those marks, I would say, was my most memorable moment. Something I'll never forget, and I was very happy once I was able to get past first year and get the marks.
It was always exciting for me as well.
Yeah, I have to kind of agree with Axel. Making posts in my first year was sort of, I think, like such a huge relief. Like, oh, yes, I did it. But like I said, I'm old, so I've got 4 years of experience to kind of parse back through here. I think one of my most memorable moments, I mean, there's been a few. Like every year brings sort of new classes, new people to meet. So I could probably talk for hours about just all the different things you can get up to at UTM. I think one of my most memorable was probably academic as well. In my first year, in our CSE 148 course, which I've been a TA for now, which is awesome. I remember I got 100 on one of the midterms for it. And I remember getting the paper back and being like, wait a second, I'm a computer scientist. I did that. So that was kind of a cool feeling of hey, this is actually working out for you. You can actually kind of do it, which is, I think, really important just to kind of keep you going, you know what I mean, in terms of motivation. Aside from that, I'd say just the social aspect of UTM is pretty good. I've made some really good friends, had some really cool memories, traveled to some pretty cool places. So I think overall, it's been just a 4-year memorable experience for me to tell my kids about. But yeah, I think that there's definitely that academic aspect of there's some really cool moments in your academic career where you're oh, that was really tough, but I did it. And then there's some just, memorable, fun times with your friends that really solidify the whole experience.
Yeah, I think they both summed it up really well. Again, I'd agree with the post. Getting into post was obviously a great moment. And I'd also say getting your first 4.0 on a course, that is a great relief. You're like, oh my God, no way. But yeah, again, agreeing with Alana, UTM's a great community. You make memories every year, and it's just a nice society to be in. You know, you see familiar faces all around campus, and everyone's really nice. And yeah, look forward to coming back.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Well, thank you so much to Axel and Alana and Rohit for joining us during this panel. It's been an absolute pleasure learning from each and every one of you. Special thanks again to Daniel for the wonderful presentation that he delivered just a little while ago. But our biggest thanks is to all of you, the guests who have joined us today for this session. We hope that you've learned a lot. And we look forward to connecting with you again in the future, whether it's on campus, whether it's virtual, whether it's to learn more about the programs that we have to offer here at the University of Toronto, Mississauga, including computer science, mathematics, and statistics. But for now, have an absolutely fantastic remainder to your day. Make sure you all stay safe and healthy, and we will see you again soon. Take care, everyone. Thank you.